Hi there. Today I'm going to talk about the gear I took on the Loyalsock trail. Loyalsock is a 60-mile hike in Pennsylvania that I hiked in the spring of 2020. It was pretty cold out there still. It was very early spring. I think I hiked it at the beginning of March. And so a lot of the gear that I took on that is going to reflect the pretty cold nights. The daytime temperatures weren't too bad, but the overnights were definitely pretty cold. So we'll start out, I hiked it with my husband, so we had the Gossamer Gear 2 as our tent. We used the Polycro ground sheet as well. And then for sleeping pads, I carried both the insulated nightlight pad from Gossamer Gear as well as an inflatable alpine light pad 150 from Montbell. And that provided a lot of extra insulation and comfort when the ground was still pretty cold in the early spring. Also, because our overnight temperatures were down into sub-freezing, I carried my Montbell 800 down hugger, the Expedition bag, which is actually rated all the way down to about 10 degrees Fahrenheit, but I sleep very cold, so it was worth it to me to carry the big warm sleeping bag. I was really happy with the performance of that. I was not cold at all. I was concerned a little bit about the potential of condensation in our single-wall tent when it was at temperature, so I actually carried the Tyvek Montbell bag cover as well, but I didn't end up really needing that. I ended up putting it just basically around the foot of my bag, just because it's so fluffy it kind of touched the tent, but we didn't end up having too much issues with condensation. But if I had carried a less warm sleeping bag, this would have been really critical to increase the overall warmth of the bag. I've used this quite a bit for that, and it's a really great piece of gear in those edge seasons. As far as my pack goes, I carried the Gossamer Gear Mariposa. This pack has been a really good pack for any time I have high volume gear like that sleeping bag or have to carry a lot of water or food. It's, my go-to bag tends to either be the Gorilla or the G420, but this is kind of that bigger model that's good for those sorts of conditions. I was trying out a couple of new pieces of gear that go with it. Gossamer Gear came out with this bottle rocket, which is basically a pocket design specifically for the water bottle, and I think it's probably designed for a smart water bottle, which I don't use. I use a metal bottle, but it still fits in there really nicely and keeps it accessible right on the shoulder strap, so I really like that. And then also they came out with the feed bag, which is a similar shoulder pocket item where you can put the food in there, and I like to eat while I walk, not have to stop and paw through my pack. So this is actually really a good spot for that. And you actually cram quite a bit of food in there, so I like that a lot. As I said, it was pretty cold out, so some of my gear reflects that. We actually had a pretty rainy forecast. It didn't end up being rainy for us, but I carried my storm parka from Montbell, which is what I use anytime it's cold and rainy. It's really warm as far as a rain jacket goes. And then I also carried a rain skirt. This is also made by Montbell, but I like these rain skirts. They're adjustable and they're nicer, I think more breathable than rain pants. And then I had a pack cover as well that was just extra insurance. Use a trash compactor bag as my pack liner. Just make sure you get an unscented one if you're hiking in bear country. And then I also had a waterproof dry sack too. So I was pretty well prepared for a rain, and even though we didn't get it. And then as far as warmth goes, I carried down booties to pair with the warm sleeping bag, and then I carried my heavier Thermowrap down synthetic parka, which is also for 10 ounces. It's super warm, and I pretty much hiked in that almost the entire time because the daytime temperatures were only really in the 50s. Had a waterproof case, ditty bag, and my black diamond headlamp. I used a Sawyer filter, which is my go-to filter I use all the time. I carried a thermos actually on this hike, and I really like doing that, especially for these shorter hikes, because it's really nice to be able to make my hot coffee in the morning and then drink it not over a few hours, especially when it's very cold, and have it actually stay warm. And then I used my Asoto Windmaster stove and the pot that comes with it that I get from Gossamer Gear. It's a anodized aluminum pot. So that was it, my setup for my gear on the Loyalsock trail.